All right, moving on to Alex Newton. K-Lytics released a sports romance report in the past week, and it showed a lot of very interesting trends. This is a report I recommend romance readers pick up. You'll see that sports romance is actually performing very well and has stayed there for some time. There was a big spike in hockey romance for a while, which I don't get what's so great about, strapping knives to your feet and playing with other boys on the ice. But then, and
Says
then
the
romance is involved
Arizonan
in
who
that.
has never seen ice in his life.
I live in Tucson, man. So, but sports romance is becoming big because there's a lot of stuff involved in sports. You do have more of the masculine men that are involved in sports. There's a lot more loss involved. You have a little more tragedy. So, no, he's vulnerable. Now I can pounce and get the romance going. I can comfort him. And these are a lot of trigger scenarios for a lot of romance books. So sports romance does do the setup very well. Thomas, what were you about to say?
Well, so this is an interesting thing with romance. In fact, I had a conversation with a listener about this just this week. She was objecting to the fact that in the Patron Toolbox, we have a romance pitch generator, and we ask questions about the man first, and then we ask questions about the woman, and then the pitch that it puts together features the man. And she's like, this isn't men's literary fiction. Why doesn't it feature the woman first? And so I was like, oh, she's probably right. And so I changed it. But then I started doing some research. And I started remembering some research I've done in the past on covers, which the pitch and the cover often have the same focus. And this ties in with sports romance, because if you look at sports romance covers or firefighter romance covers, what you see is the man. In fact, if you read the blurb for firefighter fiction, not only is the cover just the man alone, but the blurb is from the man's point of view in first person. And I've talked with best-selling romance authors who say what readers are really buying in romance is they're buying the man. You're selling them this man. But that's not always the case. If you look at historical romance, you'll often see just
female.
a woman in a beautiful dress, and the blurb focuses from the woman's point of view. It's from her perspective. It's through her eyes. And then, of course, there are romances where there's a couple. And so back in the day when Fabio was on all the covers, when he was on a cover holding a woman, he would boost sales by 33%. But if he was on a cover all by himself, he would boost sales by 45%. Because what women in the 90s were buying, they weren't buying a romance story by so-and-so author. They were buying Fabio. They were wanting to buy Fabio. And he would do these shoots where he'd do like a dozen covers in a day. They'd have all these costumes for him. And they're like, okay, now you're a cowboy. Now you're a firefighter. Now you're whatever. They'll just shoot cover after cover.
Way too close to another industry.
Yeah. And so so I was thinking, like, how do I build a tool that accommodates these different approaches? And really, the romance pitch generator is specifically designed for that couple on the cover kind of pitch. Because if you're wanting one of the other kinds of pitches, the other pitch generators already do that. The fiction pitch generator already focuses on the protagonist. So if the protagonist of your romance is the man, then you focus on the man. And if it's the woman, you focus on the woman or the setting or what have you. So with that said, kind of in terms of like how you sell a romance and the different approaches to selling a romance, what is new in the sports romance, I want to date a football player genre?
So honestly, it's just like a trend upward in sales and kind of pulling ahead of other categories. The main data points that seem to, like in terms of keywords and categorization, was enemies to lovers, which is really really easy to do in sports romance. You have the there was a lot that combined together because you could also do rich athletes. So you had the billionaire romance or the millionaire romance kind of thing, but it was all coming together in this one subgenre. And actually, the one really interesting point of this report was that it took over the actual category for hockey. You can't look for a book on hockey without getting a bunch of these romance books in your. I know hockey players just loving that because they read books to learn how to play hockey.
Well,
But
there's probably a lot of like statistics books, like Moneyball type books. I blame Taylor Swift for the rise of this genre. And when she inevitably breaks up with Travis Kelce and writes her breakup song, that's the end of this genre. So wait for that song if you're
sure,
working on a sports romance or you're thinking about writing one after she's
right.
written her "I'm breaking up with Travis Kelce" because Taylor Swift is dating a Kansas City Chief.
Hmm.
And like she does with all of her boyfriends, she breaks up with him and then writes a breakup song. That'll be the end of this whole genre. She'll single-handedly have nuked the
Hmm.
sports romance genre. But until she does, there's
It's a
also
good
the
thing to
like,
jump
yeah,
on.
I want to feel like Taylor Swift. Reading this book makes me feel like Taylor
Right.
Swift.
And that's an important psychological point you want to keep in mind is champion-based combat, which is where you follow someone you want to be like. In martial arts, this is huge. Everybody wants to be like Bruce Lee. Everyone wants to be like Chuck Norris. Everyone wants to be like Ip Man. Ip Man was huge for a while. He got a ton of movies out of it. Um, the the idea here is that Taylor Swift is the champion of romance right now for a lot of not even just young women anymore. It's like women in their 30s. And so if they want to be like Taylor Swift and live her life, and the best way you can do that is through these kinds of romances. So if you're a romance writer, be looking for the champion of romance. Who is it at this point? Is it for some reason Kim Kardashian? Is it Taylor Swift? It doesn't matter if you like it. You just have to see who it is, and then if you want to make sales, you tailor your stuff in that way.
Yeah. And we're seeing a shift in romance covers. So there was the 90s Fabio all the time,
Yep.
which was really quite remarkable because it wasn't just a single style of romance cover, it was a single
It was
guy.
one guy.
It was on all over the covers. And then you had 50 Shades of Grey, which ushered in
Yeah.
the simple book cover, which was often lots of typography, maybe a single symbol, no faces, no people at
Well,
all.
it was Twilight before that because 50 Shades of Grey is the fanfic of Twilight.
Yeah, what was the Twilight cover? I'm trying to remember.
Twilight is an apple on a black
right.
and white
Okay.
divided.
You're right. So Twilight actually was the one that started that
Yeah.
trend, or was one of the first mega hits because the Twilight series is one of the best-selling series. Period. Like, I think it's in the top 10 of all time. But now, if you look on the bestseller list for romance, you're going to see a lot of illustrated covers, many of which I suspect are done by AI. AI illustrations, where AI is kind of rough still at photos. You can often spot the problem if it's illustrated. It's difficult.
They're
to spot.
cartoonish.
So, some
and
of you
can
may
do
not
it
know,
really
but
well.
the album art for this show, that's all AI.
And it's decided I'm angry.
Hey, it made you happy today.
Probably the laugh. It's what it was. He's a happy guy.